ranking every Pokemon generation from shortest to longest, USA edition. Merc, baby! Yeah! Number 9, Gen 1 at 748 days. Despite being one of the longest running generations in Japan, Pokemania didn't hit the rest of the world until 2 years after the official release of Green and Red, and had a shorter window of time to wait for the second generation. Number 8, Gen 9 at 786 days. Obviously, the most current generation is one of the shortest since we still are in the middle of it, but whether or not Pokemon Legends ZA will count for Gen 9 or 10, we won't know until at least another year or so, and therefore, Gen 9 won't stay this low for very long. Number 7, Gen 2 at 885 days. Because of the short lifespan between the Game Boy Color and Advance, when Gold, Silver, and especially Crystal released a little further into the Color's life cycle, it makes sense why this generation was very short-lived. Number 6, Gen 5 at 953 days. Not much to say here, but as the swan song for 2D Pokemon, this generation holds some of the best sprite work Pokemon has ever seen. Hit like if you agree. Number 5, Gen 7 at 1092 days. Alola is actually the shortest generation for Japan, and it's number 5 for the US release. Just goes to show that Japan likes longevity. Number 4, Gen 8 at 1099 days. Almost exactly the same amount of time as Gen 7, but only lasted a week longer. Number 3, Gen 6 at 1,133 days. Fun fact, this is the first generation to have a synchronized international release in both Japan and the wider world, and it only took 2 decades for it to happen. Number 2, Gen 4 at 1,412 days. The longest generations tend to have the most amount of games, along with remakes of older generations. Gen 4 is probably the best example of a period where they arguably didn't have a single game that wasn't iconic. Number 1, Gen 3 at 1,495 days. When an entire generation is held within the same amount of time as an entire console's life cycle, Gen 3 made the best out of the Game Boy Advance to be crowned the longest lasting generation outside of Japan. Subscribe for the Japanese edition.